western side of Cape York Peninsula in North Queensland. Message Stick producer Jeremy Geyer is originally from Cairns, but now has close family connections to Pormpuraaw and is a convert to the community and its relaxed way of life. But there's work to be done in Pompuraaw too, and in today's story we're going croc spotting on the Chapman River and discover how these ferocious reptiles can be farmed to provide local jobs. Be warned though if you have a fear of crocs, as this may not be the story for you. But try and stay tuned, as the footage of these remarkable reptiles and their habitat is stunning. We hope you enjoy Postcards from Pompuraaw.
I've travelled to some of the most beautiful places in Australia, but it wasn't until I came to Pormpuraaw that I understood what heaven on earth was. 700 people live in this remote coastal village on the western side of Cape York in Australia's far north. It's a home for fishing and crocodiles, and stories that are told from a long time ago. Welcome to my version of paradise, a place called Pompuraaw. The stunning river systems in and around Pompuraaw provide a lifeline to the region's diverse range of plants and animals. It's also home to the world's largest reptile, the greatly feared and dangerous saltwater crocodile. Each year, at least 1 or 2 people are attacked by crocs in northern Australia, sometimes fatally. Saltwater crocs have evolved in these waters over millions of years and are distant cousins of the dinosaurs. In the 1960s, salties were pushed to the brink of extinction by avid skin hunters. But today, due to their protected status, croc numbers are on the rise. Just how many are in this region is a key question for the future of Pompuraaw and its residents. As a boy, traditional elder Donald William would regularly risk swimming across the Munkin River, but it's one thing he wouldn't do today.
No gator was here before. Maybe 1 or 2 up the top. We used to swim across there, swim back, fishing out the side. Even Chapman did. People used to swim in and out. There were kid buggy, but go out the side, come back. Now, these days, you can swim across now. If that big fella see you, he'll drown you right in the middle of the river.
The Aboriginal peoples of Cape York have an ancient and binding connection to these giant creatures through songs and stories. In the Dreamtime, the crocodile was originally a man who turned himself into a reptile. One Dreamtime story tells of a big fight between a saltwater and a freshwater croc. In this story, the freshwater crocodile was jealous of his salty cousin's fish trap building skills. So he invited the salty to visit him and planned an attack. The salty was then ambushed by a number of freshwater crocs who maimed him by smashing his arms. Today, crocs exist with the Pormpuraaw community. For some, the crocodile is their totem. For others, it's a swimming deterrent. But one thing will always remain: the crocodile is an animal that demands respect. Despite their Dreamtime significance, crocs now provide the locals with a reliable source of income. In the early 1970s, the Edward River Crocodile Farm was established. It was a new type of farming for the region.
It's a bit like a zoo, really, isn't it?
A zoo? It's a farm. We're farming crocodiles. It's not here for people to look at and play with. We're going to prove that crocodiles can be farmed the same as any other farm animal. Presently, the Aboriginals that are working with us on this project are classified as trainee crocodile farmers, which means that when they've completed their training as such, they will be crocodile farmers and take over this farm and farm it.
Well, my father ran this place a long time ago, and I was here then as a kid, school holidays, so probably started me wanting to work with them, I suppose, I could say.
Since the 70s, croc farming techniques have evolved, especially in the catering department.
They used to feed them in pal tins, dog tins. Like, you know what you feed pal in, what you get dog meat in now. They used to carry them around. That was what they used to feed those little fellas in. So they only had probably 15 or 20 at a time. And eventually that's what they started, how they started the farm, I suppose. And up to now, in the heyday when it was going, when they were doing all the skinning here, they had up to 15,000 animals here. Now we sort of scaled down about, when we've got a full of hatchlings, we're probably around 8,000, 9,000, I suppose.
The Pompuraaw farm now supplies thousands of baby crocodiles for manufacture into fashion accessories. Most of these creatures end up as bags, boots and jackets in glamorous boutiques around the world. The farm provides a handful of locals with full-time employment and real wages, a rarity in many remote communities.
What we as a council are looking for is to be able to develop this Edward River Croc Farm so that we can employ more people. Employment is really important here. There are not a lot of opportunities for full-time employment. The Croc Farm has that opportunity to develop more full-time jobs, to skin out these crocs, to provide croc meat for the export market, and also to provide hatchlings onto other croc farms.
Pompuraaw wants more jobs for its people, and it's pinning its hope on gaining Queensland Government approval to harvest wild crocodile eggs from the region. At present, egg collection can only take place from the nests inside the farm.
We've been trying for 15 odd years to get a wild harvest going in Queensland, or for this area here. They do it everywhere else in the world. They take eggs out of the wild except for Queensland. And we can't see why it's a problem. And the farm could expand a lot better. We could have the rangers or another, say, harvesters out of the community, 6 or 8 people with a couple of boats going and getting eggs out of the wild. It's another, it's another enterprise for the community.
But there's stiff opposition to the council's plans. Environmentalists argue that wild egg harvesting spells disaster for the ancient reptile. Queensland's Environmental Protection Agency is also concerned about croc numbers, as they are still considered a vulnerable species. Commercial harvesting of eggs will only be permitted if scientific evidence proves it is sustainable and won't limit the continued recovery of saltwater crocodiles. In Pompuraaw, however, it's jobs that are at stake. Locals want to work and believe people down south don't understand the issue.
I think it's a number of them, politicians, environmentalists and certain zoos that are stopping it down south from stopping it. And, you know, we can't see why these people can't try and make another enterprise out of their own land. Anyway, they say we can't, so we will still keep fighting it, I suppose. We've got a survey happening now on wild eggs, so wild nests, I should say. So we'll see where that goes, see if anything comes of that. But yeah, I'm not real confident that anything will come of it.
The rivers have quite good numbers of crocs out there, so it's not as though there's a shortage on the Cape of crocs, and the wild egg harvest would certainly contribute to a better business and making the business more viable.
Spearheading research into croc numbers are the local rangers. Upriver, they'll aim to spot and count crocs and register their nests.
Okay, what we're going to do today is just go up here, go up to the left arm, Station Creek, and have a look for some crocodile nests again, GPS them, and also take some photographs, but not too close.
Yep.
Steady, steady. All good?
Yep.
Okay, let's do it.
The ranger team has found some slide marks.
Well, this is a slide that I think services the nest, which is about 50 metres in here in the grass underneath one of those smaller trees. Most of the ones that I find usually have, there'll be two exits, or an entry and an exit, so two different tracks into the same nest. I'm not sure if the reasoning behind it or why they do it, but there are almost always two tracks.
Shane and George spot another nest and believe it's worth getting a closer view.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here and you guys can just jump up over the front there and have a bit of a look at it, eh?
Aboriginal rangers are allowed to approach nests, but they must be careful as female crocs are their most protective and dangerous when nesting.
You there?
Yeah, well, we just go out and go up on the riverbank and look for croc slides, and that's where we can find where you hardly see them, but they'll be a bit further away from the river. And we just got to be careful, and because of the long grass, there's really predictable. They could be anywhere, you know, and got to be aware and always be alert.
The rainy season is the time for female crocs to prepare their nests, usually on higher ground in freshwater estuaries. A nest made of plants and mud can incubate 40 to 60 eggs. But croc breeding isn't easy. A nesting female has to compete with other animals for the best place to lay her eggs. She must choose a protected place where her eggs won't be washed away by torrential downpours, killing the embryos. A mother's steel jaws are capable of crushing a wild pig. But once her hatchlings arrive, she gently delivers them to the water and keeps watch. Despite the effort, less than 1% of her offspring will make it in the wild. Farming croc eggs, however, provides nesting mothers with safety from the hazards of the wild. The farm is located on higher ground, away from the wet season floods. While the community waits for a government decision on wild harvesting, the Pormpuraaw farm continues to rely on its own reptile population to produce and harvest eggs. At feeding time, it's easy to see just how big these crocs in captivity can be.
It probably is a pretty good place to have a croc farm because it's a natural environment. The water's always warm. We don't, our winters aren't that cold up here, so we don't have a period where the hatchlings don't eat. They eat pretty much full time because we get water out of the ground. It comes out about 29 degrees. It's perfect conditions for growing crocs.
Gathering eggs is not the best career choice if you have a fear of being eaten alive. Farm workers carefully coax the mothers to leave their nests so they can quickly poach their eggs. It looks dangerous, and indeed it is, but for the farm workers, it's simply keeping your wits and having an exit strategy.
Watch him. Come back. Right. Get back.
Yeah, just gotta be careful when you're going in, and yeah, just when she comes up, just give her a tap around the nose with a bamboo, and pretty much she'll go away. But sometimes they get stubborn, so stay around a bit and just have to keep going. And eventually they will go away.
We get pretty used to it. It's sort of a day-to-day thing for us. You don't sort of worry about it. People say, oh, geez, that's... And for us, it's just a normal day. Go in there, just, got a couple of good fellas that watch out, know what they're doing, and you know what the croc's going to do virtually before he does it. So, yeah, it's... probably looks a lot more worse than what it is, I suppose.
Even with a cool approach to working with a hungry reptile, there's still those close encounters that can cause a heart seizure.
There's a big fella sitting on the road, so as we got up to him, we just hunted him off and didn't see our mates was laying in the water next to us and jumped out and landed between me and Gav. So we got soaking wet, and probably our pants did too, I suppose.
Once the eggs are collected, they're prepared for the incubator. Here they are washed, numbered and measured. The sex of young salties is determined by the incubation temperature. Below 30 degrees will produce female hatchlings and above 32 degrees, males. 3 months later, and a little bit of magic takes place. Just like the bigger crocs, these little snappers are also fattened up, but the hatchlings and babies are fed mince. When they get to 9 months old, the infant crocs are in high demand, and it's time for this mob to be shipped interstate. A job in croc export requires a careful hands-on approach. Packing can result in a sore finger or two if mishandled. The Pompuraaw Council argues that wild egg harvesting will in fact help sustain and increase the wild croc population. They plan to export most of their harvest hatchlings, but also release some back into the surrounding rivers and estuaries to boost wild croc numbers.
We're not going to hurt the crocodile population here by taking the eggs, and it's also, as far as management practices goes, we also have the option to monitor the crocodile population and to let go back into the wild, you know, animals from the farm. I'm not exactly sure, but I think there's only probably 2 or 3% of the eggs in a nest that will survive to maturity. So if you take all the eggs and incubate them, you have the opportunity, and as I said, to let the eggs, you know, let the crocodiles go back into the wild at a metre in length when they're pretty well above predation by most things.
Indigenous land and sea rights are also at the heart of the council's argument. Traditional owners have been hunting these waters since time immemorial, relying on their skills and connection to country and crocs.
So I think where we have people here that have got the skills, the ability and willingness to make this business develop, why should it be objected to? Why should a portion of the Australian community be there be objections to them trying to make a livelihood in a place that is their land, and why would they need to leave here?
Crocodile ranching has been going on in the Northern Territory successfully for quite some time. I think Queensland's a little bit slow catching up. It's definitely a source of income for the traditional owners. The crocodile farm here has made a very reasonable offer to pay the traditional owners for the eggs that they collect off their traditional lands, so that's a source of income. It's also, you know, the employment prospects. There's a lot of benefits for the community if we can actually go through all the hurdles that they've set us and achieve the permit.
To establish whether or not wild harvesting will be permitted, an independent scientific survey of croc numbers and nests must take place. The long-term survival of the saltwater crocodile is at stake.
I certainly don't want to see the crocodiles disappear from here because it's one of the main draw cards for this area, but there's no reason why we can't, you know, do like some of the people on the East Coast are doing and make some money out of it. This lock it up and leave it alone mentality is hurting the people in Pompuraaw.
In its heyday, the crocodile farm employed a large section of the community. Over the years, that has dwindled to a few positions. But with wild harvesting, the council believes it can create many more new jobs. Brian Miller claims there is a place for Pompuraaw in the global market.
I think there is a definite overseas market out there for crocodile products. China, there's a huge market. We've got, from the crocodile, you have meat, you have bone, you have teeth, you have leather products. So all these products can be produced for external markets, internal markets. So I think that's about marketing, and where we would be looking for partnerships, we'd look for partners that would look at touching the Asian market for meat, bone products and leather.
Researchers are now in Pompuraaw conducting what has been labelled as the most comprehensive study on crocodile numbers in the region. This important data will help determine whether wild egg harvesting will be possible for the local croc farm. Whatever decision transpires after the research, both the farm and naturalists claim their position will guarantee that the saltwater crocodile will be around for many years to come. Coming up next week, you've met the King of Pompuraaw, now meet the Queens. Join us as we look at one of the most influential community groups in Cape York and the fundraising capers it employs to get the job done.
We hope you enjoyed the program. If you want to find out more about Message Stick, please go to our website at abc.net.au/messagestick. We'll see you next week for more postcards from Pompuraaw.
Message Stick kunibalanda yako.